Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Ottawa's Virtual Economic Recovery Town Hall. My name is Kina Leclerc and I will be your moderator. Bonjour à toutes et à tous et bienvenue à l'Assemblée virtuelle sur la relance économique de la Ville d'Ottawa. Je m'appelle Kina Leclerc et je serai votre modératrice. The purpose of today's discussion is to highlight the activities of the Mayor's Economic Partners Task Force and share how the city and its key economic partners are working together as we recover from COVID-19. L'objectif de la discussion d'aujourd'hui est de souligner les activités du groupe de travail des partenaires économiques du maire et de faire part de la façon dont la ville et ses partenaires économiques principaux travaillent ensemble alors que nous nous remettons des répercussions à la COVID-19. We have several guests joining us today, including Mayor Jim Watson, Councillors Laura Dudas and Eli Elshantiri, Stephen Willis, General Manager of Planning, Infrastructure and Economic Development, and members of the Economic Partners Task Force, Michael Crockett, President and CEO of Ottawa Tourism, Lise Sarrazin, Directrice Générale, Regroupement des gens d'affaires de la Capitale Nationale, Mark Kolosky, Chair, Ottawa Coalition of BIAs, Su-Ling Ching, President and CEO, Ottawa Board of Trade. Mayor Watson, I will go over to you for some opening remarks.
Merci beaucoup, Kina. Thank you very much, Kina. And thank you to everyone who has joined us on the call and listening in and watching us on YouTube. Bonjour à tous et merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui. On March 16th, I established an Economic Partners Task Force co-chaired by Councillors Elshantiri and Dudas. The task force is assisting the city in identifying issues and opportunities for the city to support local businesses during these very difficult times that the world is facing. It's comprised of partners from local business organizations, and in addition to our guests today, who I'll be introducing in a moment, the task force also includes Caroline Pichinin from the Ottawa Festival Network, Michael Tremblay, the President and CEO of Invest Ottawa, Bruce Harvey, Ottawa's Film Commissioner, and Jamie Kwong from the Ottawa Music Industry Coalition. The task force is meeting regularly, and I'm grateful for the commitment and the time, the expertise, and the opinions of our partners that they contribute at these meetings and in between the meetings. As we move into the recovery phase of COVID-19, the partners are providing extensive and significant expertise to inform the city's recovery plan while also establishing their own sector-specific plans. You'll be hearing about more of those in the next hour. Welcome, Michael, Lise, Mark, and Su-Ling. We appreciate your participation today and look forward to hearing from you. Bienvenue à tous nos partenariats. J'ai bien hâte à cette discussion sur la relance économique ici dans la ville d'Ottawa. I'd now like to invite my council colleagues to say a few words. We'll begin with Councillor Dudas, please.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. We know these are challenging times for everyone. The task force and our city staff have been working to help keep Ottawa's local business economy vibrant and resilient. In March, we added a business support recovery page to ottawa.ca and launched the first phase of an online promotional campaign to help support our local businesses. The Buy Local campaign encourages residents to support their favorite small businesses by ordering products and gift cards online or ordering takeout or delivery from local restaurants, providing them with critical income during this incredibly challenging period. And recognizing the province is beginning to reopen the economy, last week, the city and Ottawa Public Health launched the Business Reopening Toolkit. The toolkit is a comprehensive roadmap that will help small businesses plan their safe reopening by having the right measures in place to ensure the safety of employees, clients, and customers. The toolkit also helps to create a physical distancing plan and provides links to helpful resources like public health signage and sector-specific guidelines. The toolkit can be accessed on ottawa.ca/business toolkit. We are all in this together. I look forward to today's discussion in support of our local economy. Eli, I know you have a few comments regarding our local small business and today's town hall. I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you to everyone joining us today and to those people who are joining us on YouTube. Small businesses bring life and vibrance to our neighborhood, offering unique retail, restaurant services, and entertainment experience that contribute to the quality of life in Ottawa. They are the foundation of Ottawa's economy and provide a variety of employment opportunity. More than 35% of all jobs in Ottawa are in a small business, and more than 93% of all businesses located in Ottawa are small businesses with fewer than 50 employees. Most local businesses had to close their bricks and mortar store when province declared a state of emergency, but many adopted a new business model to continue serving their customers online. I'm very proud of how these business owners and BIAs have chosen to respond to the challenge presented by COVID-19. I'm equally proud of our residents for supporting small businesses over the past 2 months to ensure they make it through these difficult times. A successful economic rebound begins with ensuring the safe, effective reopening of Ottawa small businesses, with many street front retailers now open for businesses and serve farmers market offering click and collect opportunity. Now is the time to support your local favorite. During today's town hall, we'll hear from 4 task force members about their economic recovery priority and how the city can best support their effort. We will also hear from Steve Willis on the city's effort to restart our economy in weeks and months ahead. Thank you all for being here today. Steve?
Thank you very much, Councillor El-Shantieri. I'm now going to ask the business leaders joining us today to describe for us some of the challenges their sectors have been facing over the last few months. Michael, I'll start with you. Clearly, the tourism sector has been affected by COVID-19. Can you help us understand the magnitude of these impacts?
Yes, thank you, Kina. And coincidentally, this is Tourism Week in Canada. And you're right, the mood is very different this year than it has been in previous years. Tourism, probably after healthcare, is one of the most affected industries in the COVID-19 pandemic, and is forecast to be one of the slowest to rebound. It was the first hit, it was the hardest hit, and will likely take the longest to recover. So we must rebuild an industry that employed more than 43,000 Ottawans and brought in an estimated $2.2 billion in visitor spending to our community annually. And part of the reason that tourism is so hard hit is that tourism is a perishable good. An unsold hotel room night or an unsold boat tour is gone forever and can't be saved up to sell at a later date. Unlike some businesses that can store inventory during a down period and then sell it later once the economy recovers. And tourism businesses right across the city, from hotels, attractions, restaurants, service providers, and even some companies who probably don't even know they're in the tourism industry, they're all truly feeling the impact of this pandemic due to the lack of visitors spending their dollars in our community. Our own analysis of the impact for 2020 is a decrease of as much as $1.4 billion in visitor spending in 2020. And just this year, we've seen the cancellation of dozens of meetings, conventions, major events, festivals, hundreds of millions of dollars in economic impact from those events. And we're proud of our tremendous partnership that we have with the City of Ottawa in terms of attracting major events to our community. And although some of them have indeed canceled for 2020, we've been able to work with some of them to help many of them recommit to Ottawa, rebooking in future years, 2021 and 2022 for some of the big ones. Sport events, meetings, conventions, they'll need to take things into consideration that they haven't had to in the past. Things like physical distancing, new sanitation protocols, capacity of venues. And it's one thing to do this in a physical bricks and mortar facility, but when an organization is contingent on gathering people together, such as the case with festivals, it's absolutely going to be a challenge. And Ottawa has in a regular year over 300 festivals that brighten people's days, generate visitation, and provide economic impact. And many of these take place in public spaces that may be tougher to control from a virus perspective. Festivals between April and June alone account for $50 million in visitor spending in Ottawa. The total economic impact is higher, of course, when local spending is accounted for, but $50 million from those visitors were motivated to come to Ottawa because of those festivals. And annually, 37 of the biggest festivals and events support over $122 million in total visitor spending in our community. So remember, the things that make Ottawa a great place to visit are also the things that contribute to our own quality of life. So when COVID-19 impacts the tourism sector in a negative way, that also does have an impact on our own quality of life as citizens of Ottawa. Thanks, Kina.
Thank you for your insight, Michael. Lise, pourriez-vous nous dire comment le RGA a réglé les problèmes des membres?
Are the RGA settled the problems of members, and what was the main purpose of your efforts so far?
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for inviting us to this panel today. First of all, we've all been affected individually and as businesses. Many businesses have had to close or have had to adapt or a change in many ways. All our members and other businesses across the country have tried to take stock of what's happening. We've put on webinars, we've organized events to allow businesses to understand what governments were doing to help them. But it's really through work with allies like this committee that we've been able to deploy measures and services to help businesses to change, to rethink the way they do business, to find solutions, or to deal with the problems that they're facing. Now, currently, the main topic is rent. It's not yet something that's been resolved. It's a major part of the issues that businesses are facing. How much space is available? Well, many businesses have closed, and I'm sure that they won't be able to actually pay back their debts because their income has or is not sufficient through the pandemic. That's a big issue. And then there's also consumer confidence. How can we boost consumer confidence so that they will turn out and shop in our businesses, businesses that have not yet opened as well? So what can we do really to change the way we live our lives and the way we do business? So what we're doing is to support our members. What we believe really is that we have to work together. All levels of government have to work together. You have to work with other organizations as well so that we're able to actually come out of this pandemic stronger and with more creative solutions as well. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Lise. Mark, ACO BIA represents the interests of 19 BIAs, who in turn represent the interest of thousands of businesses across our city. What have been the top 3 concerns on the minds of small businesses, business owners, and operators?
Well, thank you. As Lee just mentioned, the number one issue right now is how is everyone going to pay the rent? Businesses have been struggling to pay the rent with no sales. There is a federal and provincial assistance program right now that has good intentions, but it's flawed. And so we're hoping that there'll be some tinkering to support both our landlords and our tenants. And we've also seen how BOMA has encouraged working together between landlords and tenants to find a mutually beneficial solution. And we're seeing how intertwined we all are in this economy. I guess the next issue is for businesses is how to adapt or how to get any kind of sales. At first, anyone who didn't have an e-commerce website was struggling to fill that void, and the BIAs jumped in and helped out as much as we could. Same with food takeout delivery. Now we're seeing businesses turning to innovative and creative measures to make ends meet. Whether it's retooling distilleries to make commercial grade sanitizer. I know that the gym I used to go to, the owner is now selling eco-friendly hand gel sanitizer. You think of companies like Ottawa Special Events. I mean, they've worked in every BIA in every part of the city, putting on great events for many years. And now, unable to put on events, they're shifting some operations to help restaurants with patios, setups with tents and awnings and propane heaters and furniture and the like. So everyone's trying to figure out how to keep paying their employees, covering costs until they can start, going back to their regular business again. I guess the last issue, or not the last, but another issue is the uncertainty of the future. No one knows when things will be back. And that's what's so frustrating about this. And what will it look like when it comes back? And how will they accommodate their employees and customers? Some retail has been allowed to open, which is great, but our massage therapists, our nail salons, our barbers could still be months away. And it's a pretty strange world we live in. We were just talking about this, where one can go golfing, but can't go see their dentist. So, that being said, we want to be prepared so that when we are allowed to open, we're ready to do it safely. And I commend the city for creating a very successful toolkit for businesses to help them understand how to reopen safely.
Thank you very much for your input, Mark. Sue Ling, the Ottawa Board of Trade advocates on behalf of businesses of all sizes and from various sectors. What themes have emerged for you over the past several weeks?
So over the last 11 weeks, it's been quite a change. In the beginning, of course, we were plagued, as Mark said, with uncertainty. Businesses, many of them saw immediate and deep declines in revenue. And so the thing we were advocating for most with the government is to get some liquidity into our system. So that people could maintain their businesses until we saw how the impact would fall out. Access to funds, I would say, the ability to maintain staffing and the ability to mitigate fixed costs, the number one of which, of course, was rent, as Mark mentioned. So what became very obvious, yes, the small businesses are at the forefront of this war. And of course, we all rely on small businesses. But what became very obvious is that we're all connected. And so every business, every size of business in every sector, as the 11 weeks has rolled out, has been impacted. And so when we're looking at the programs that the government has put out to support us, what's very obvious is we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. And so the ability to roll out these programs quickly to help as many people as possible were flawed, of course, because some of these programs the government would typically take years to roll out. And so what we have seen is an unprecedented level of collaboration among government representatives, business and community leaders, tables such as this table. And so that has been, I think, how we have managed so well. Also, we have seen a trust and an adherence for the most part from our community to follow the advice of our public health officials, understanding that optimal health equals economic prosperity. And so we're very proud of our community for doing that. The government is a soft place for us to fall in terms of providing support, but really what we know is the community at large and our business leaders are the ones that are going to lead us out of this. So we've seen a strong sense of community, a willingness for everyone to support one another. And the other thing we've seen, of course, as Mark has mentioned as well, is the level of innovation has been incredible. How businesses have pivoted so quickly to generate some revenues, in some cases completely changing their business model so that they are able to provide, PPEs and other things that are necessary during this time. And so that has been a very inspiring part. I think now we're into a stage where there is a realization and an acceptance that this is not going to be over anytime soon. And if we thought that managing the crisis piece was complicated, the recovery is going to be complicated, but it will be predicated on the decisions that we make as individuals in the community at large and as business owners and leaders. And so what we really, we'll get into the recovery piece, but what we're really encouraging is for everyone to stay positive and stay supporting local, to do what they can to inspire consumer and business confidence. We can demonstrate to decision makers at all levels of government that Ottawa, is prepared to reopen and that we are expecting a full recovery. And in many cases, many businesses will thrive, from the new trends that we've seen. And so we really want the government to help us create an environment where business leaders who've demonstrated ingenuity and hard work are going to take us through this. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue Ling. Steve, as the city pivots from response to recovery, what are your considerations as you develop a framework for economic recovery?
First of all, before I begin, and thank you, Kina, I think we all know that with this pandemic and the scale it's been, I think we individually all know business owners who are hurting. We know people who've lost their jobs. And certainly at the city, we're very mindful that this has a real human impact in our community. We'd all love to have an immediate resumption of our economy, but there are some preconditions that have to fall into place before economic recovery can happen. And the first and foremost is we do have to get permissions under the provincial emergency orders. We need to get guidance to all of the businesses that are out there on safe operating practices, and we need broader public acceptance of activities they need to do to help businesses and maintaining physical distancing as they resume their normal activities. We also recognize that the path to economic recovery over the longer term is dependent on other factors, including the availability of childcare, both public and private, the continued continuity of a safe public transit system, and aligning the service in that area with demand. While we acknowledge that nearly every sector across our economy has been affected by COVID-19, there are particular sectors that have been hit the hardest, and the city is trying to focus its efforts on those that are hit the hardest, including entertainment, accommodations, food services, and retail. As of April, and these statistics are a month old now, employment in the entertainment, accommodations, food services sector in Ottawa had a decrease by 58%, and the retail sector had job losses of about 42%. Together, these two sectors represent 19% of Ottawa's total employment, and they're an integral part of the city's economy and our quality of life, and they're part of what makes our city a wonderful, beautiful place to be. We know that these sectors will be slow to recover, and we need to do what we can to help them. So in order to support city-wide recovery efforts, the city's economic recovery objectives include implementing a phased series of initiatives based on the principles of restart, reset, and long-term resilience. And we're focusing on limiting business closures, trying to preserve jobs, and restoring consumer and business confidence. And those are what we're focusing on as we try to develop our strategy. Thanks, Kina.
Thank you very much for sharing, Steve. Mayor Watson, can you comment on what you're hearing from the business community in terms of their most significant challenges?
Yeah, thank you, Keenan. Thank you to our panelists very much for your insight. As Steve said, it's been really, really tough for the small business community, a lot of family-owned businesses. They've lost, in many instances, everything. Their revenue's down to next to nothing. And so we know tourism, hospitality, retail are suffering. And as I mentioned, many of these are family-owned businesses, have been in the community a very long time. Nous sommes vraiment à la recherche de mesures qui vont aider nos petites entreprises et nos restaurants, par exemple, qui mettent de la vie dans nos quartiers. That's why I moved 2 days ago on Wednesday to waive patio fees this year to give restaurants a break to make it through the summer when restaurants are allowed to open. It's not a large amount. We have very limited tools, as you know, in the municipal toolbox, but this is one where we can help. And I saw a restaurateur on Preston Street saying that this would save his restaurant $6,000 to $8,000. So hopefully that helps. And we've asked staff to come back to Transportation Committee next Wednesday with a full plan with options to expand patios onto private and public property if you don't have the space, obviously, in your own property. So businesses can ensure the physical distancing between their customers and their staff.
I'm very happy to see Municipal Council supporting my proposal to eliminate patio.
Unanimously for the motion that Councillor Tim Tierney, the chair of the Transportation Committee, and I put forward. Our staff are looking at a number of measures to lessen the burden of regulations and lower fees for the hardest hit sectors of the economy. I look forward to supporting their plans when they come to council in the coming weeks and months. I've also asked staff to give some thought on how we can leverage our outdoor and rural assets to stimulate tourism. In other words, staycations. We're probably going to see a significant drop in foreign travel simply because the planes are not flying. And we have to do what we can to attract people from nearer our city, whether it's Kingston, Toronto, Montreal, to come and visit their nation's capital. We'll have some great bike trails and waterways that connect our rural villages that Eli, of course, knows so well. They all have wonderful restaurants, shops, and breweries to discover. Since we can't really travel that much this summer, it's a wonderful opportunity to drive or cycle out to our rural villages and explore what they have to offer. Nos villages ruraux sont charmants et connectés au centre-ville par les pistes
Our rural villages
de
are
rivière
charming
incroyables.
and
C'est
connected
le
to
moment
the heart of our city
idéal
through
d'aller
cycle
explorer
routes
et
and an
découvrir
incredible
les
river. It's
restaurants
the
et
ideal
les
time to
boutiques
get out
qui
and
s'y en
discover
trouvent.
shops and restaurants in these areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Watson. I would now like to ask our economic partners to share a few of your recovery priorities in the coming weeks and months, and let us know how the city can best support your efforts and your outlook on the pace of economic recovery. Je demanderai maintenant à nos partenaires économiques de faire part de quelques-unes de leurs priorités.
Economic partners
les
to
prochaines
highlight a
semaines et
few
les
of your
prochains mois
recovery
en matière de
priorities in the coming
rétablissement.
weeks and months.
J'aimerais également qu'ils
I'd
nous
also like
indiquent
to
de la
know
meilleure façon
how
dont
the
la
city
ville
can
peut
best
soutenir
support
les
your
efforts
efforts and your
et
outlook
qu'ils fassent valoir leur point de
on the
vue
pace
quant au rythme
of
de la relance
economic
économique.
recovery as well. Thank
Michael,
you.
I'll start with you.
Thanks, Kina. The restart of our industry is going to be gradual and incremental, less like a flip switch and more like a dial. It's possible that we will move forwards and backwards through some of the stages and phases before we're fully out of this thing. And we anticipate a start, as the mayor just talked about, with hyper-local tourism, really visitors visiting their hometown again, followed by some regional and provincial visitation, and then eventually national and international tourism, which will likely take quite a bit longer to return. With that initial return of some domestic demand, this might actually work in Ottawa's favor compared to some other communities, as about 90% of our visitors are Canadian in a typical year. And we're working on marketing plans once travel is safe and encouraged again. The research is telling us that right now, people feel the safest traveling in their own personal vehicles, and we expect that this will mean that road trips are an important early step in the tourism recovery. So like other destinations, we'll likely begin marketing to close markets, such as those within Ontario and Quebec, which are already our largest source of visitors. We also have to be sure that the local community is comfortable with welcoming visitors to town and is aware of the safety measures that are put in place. After this, we'll likely see travel within the country, which again puts Ottawa in a favorable position, both in terms of our geography between Canada's two most populated cities, as well as our role as the nation's capital, telling Canada's stories and representing the entire country in one city. Of course, we're monitoring a ton of research right now about the travel intentions of Canadians, giving us some indicators about the types of activities that people will be seeking once they start to travel again. And outdoor recreation, green space, parks, trails, and these are consistently at the top of the list right now. And Ottawa is better positioned than many other urban centers to offer those amenities thanks to investments by the city, the NCC, and others. Our industry is also full of creative and innovative people, so the restart of our industry could actually go in new directions that we can't even picture yet. And maybe I'll close by saying that all of us have a role to play in the recovery of Ottawa's visitor economy. Once it's safe to do so, we urge all citizens to invite friends and family to visit Ottawa, work with our team at Ottawa Tourism to bring your association's meetings and conventions to Ottawa, and volunteer to help bring your kids' provincial or national sporting championships to the city. And even easier, just simply use the My Ottawa hashtag in your social media posts. We want Ottawa to be a safe, welcoming, and attractive destination for both residents and visitors. And once attractions reopen, we encourage everyone to get back out there, rediscover our city, maybe enjoy a staycation if you have the means, because these businesses are run by our friends and neighbors, and they need everyone's help to survive this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Mark, please go ahead.
Great, thank you. So the first way the city can and is supporting us is by reducing regulations and red tape and bylaws. We want to be ready for when we get the okay. And we're very appreciative of the efforts the city's been making on recognizing our plight and supporting us as much as municipally possible. For example, we highlighted a bylaw issue last week. It's a quirk of zoning and community development plans. And it's something that would normally require a lot of time and energy and possibly a trip to the Committee of Adjustments. And I flagged it to Steve Willis, our General Manager of Economic Development. And 4 minutes later, I had a response from him and a commitment to finding a way to fairly address the issue promptly. I mean, that is incredible. What other municipality has that? My guess is none. We're very fortunate to have that staff working on our behalf, and we get the same kind of response from the mayor's office too. So we're quite fortunate there. I guess the next part is finding innovative solutions. We recognize that the city does have limited tools. So one is the restaurants, as our mayor just announced. Seating capacity when allowed to reopen will be dramatically reduced. So allowing patios to expand, taking up parking spaces and other areas, giving them a break on patio fees. Anything they can do to help our restaurants squeeze in a bit more revenue is certainly welcome and appreciated. The city also is going to be supporting the changing landscape of main streets. We don't know what the future will look like for main streets. Probably a combination of clusters of jobs and retail and services together. In anticipation of these changes, the city's explored allowing the growing small-scale manufacturing industry in our commercial zones, things like maker spaces and microbreweries, and we think those will play an important part in our recovery. And I guess the last piece is the shop local effort. And I know it sounds like a platitude, but it is the most important thing anyone in Ottawa can do to help our economy. Businesses were shut down, forced to close to stop the spread of COVID, and we did our part. And for 10 weeks, many businesses have had zero revenues. And in the meantime, grocery stores have been open to keep our cupboards full, but they're also selling clothing and dishes and kids' toys and so on. So our retail sector has watched those sales go out the door. But now that there's some reopening, never has it been more important to support them. And every dollar you spend in our very, very local economy has that multiplying effect. So what we ask for when we say shop local is that you consider the price of the convenience of, ordering from an online e-commerce giant. That package on the front doorstep is easy, but your money is just evaporating out of our economy. And the same thing applies to third-party food service delivery services. People have great intentions. They want to order from our local restaurants, and they do it through these third-party apps. But what they don't realize is that these companies take 30 to 35% off each order from the restaurant. They're taking away the chance of many of these business owners from making any sort of profit. So we ask and we promote that if you can, call the restaurant directly and do the direct pickup. They are being safe and they're keeping the money in our economy. So that's a long way of saying we need to share the message, and we need the city and councillors and everyone to share the message that you helping support your hyper local economy in the right way is incredibly vital to our recovery.
Thank you very much, Mark, for the insight. Suling and Lise, my apologies. I know you're both collaborating on a variety of fronts and have similar mandates. What are your key recovery priorities over the coming weeks and months? I will repeat in French. Suling et Lise, je sais que vous collaborez sur divers dossiers et que vos mandats sont très semblables. Quelles sont vos grandes priorités des prochaines semaines et des prochains mois en matière de rétablissement?
Shall I begin, Lise? Sure. Yes, we do work very closely together along with our colleague at the Gatineau Chamber of Commerce. And I'll also mention that we're fortunate to be working as well with the Ontario and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, because as we know, particularly now, many of the decisions being made at those levels of government impact us directly. So in terms of the work we're doing, I would say it was twofold. The first is around the advocacy work that we do to ensure that decision makers have a pulse on what's going on in the business community and that they're making decisions that support us in the best way possible. And then the second piece would be around tactical ways that we can support businesses in either pivoting, in promoting themselves, and accessing the resources that they need. In terms of the first, we continue to look at access and implementation of programs. Particularly, we are interested right now in the extension of the wage subsidy program, the rent program. And although we know it has not been met with many accolades, we encourage landlords and tenants alike to continue to work together to find solutions for their mutual benefit, and not allow the details of this program to come between them, but rather to use it in the best way possible as we continue to advocate for some tweaks in that program. And we are also looking at additional projects that will spur the economic activity as quickly as possible, and how we can recommend to the government for things like infrastructure projects and those kinds of things that will have a huge multiplier effect. And we certainly are looking at programs where we can work with our stakeholders to support the buy local program. And Mark said it very well. We want buy local all of the time, but it's particularly important right now. And the truth is that these are our friends and neighbors who are running these businesses. And so we're an online global economy now, but we need to be thoughtful about directing, committing to direct a certain portion of our spending toward these businesses. From a tactical point of view, the chambers are working together to create programs like our affinity programs so that businesses can save money and have access to services. We also have some granting programs. We have one going on right now through Facebook where businesses can get a $5,000 grant that ends next Tuesday, June 2nd, and another one through the Canadian Chamber where they're providing a business hotline so that businesses can have professional advisors at the ready. And they are also launching a grant program of $10,000 per business, and that starts on Monday. For the Chamber, we've been running webinars to support businesses through this and helping them become rebound ready. We're going to be doing that till the end of June. As well, we have been promoting Wellness Wednesdays. And so one thing that we really know is that we've seen an increase in concern around the mental well-being of our business community and our community at large. And so encouraging people to do what they can to stay healthy in that way and to be there for each other. And so we also are going to be running programs throughout the summer, including some peer groups and launching a new recovery activation program. So programs, continued advocacy, and very grateful to all of our community and business leaders who we work with, but also all of the volunteers in the business community who during this have been very collaborative and communicative. And as far as the city is concerned, as well as the other levels of government, we're really encouraging this new level of collaboration to continue as we create a strategy for recovery for our Ottawa. Lise?
Thank you very much, Suling. It's always a pleasure to work with you. Concernant le RGA, ben, c'est clair que beaucoup de nos membres travaillent sur les deux côtés de la rivière. Alors, pour nous, de trouver des opportunités, des outils et des mesures pour appuyer ces entreprises afin de tenter de réduire les différences sur les deux côtés de la rive. Donc, on travaille très fort avec la ville d'Ottawa et de Gatineau à cet effet-là. La collaboration qui se passe présentement avec la Chambre de commerce de Gatineau, le Ottawa Board of Trade, ensemble avec le RGA, afin de nous aider à apporter des ressources, peut-être une vision un peu plus élargie de nos villes pour augmenter la visibilité.
Our cities to increase their visibility, their presence to tourism, immigration, and the interest of businesses in coming here. We also worked with Clarence and Rockland Board of Trade and other Francophone businesses that are helping each other. They're holding webinars, offering education on economic recovery. And this is also a priority for us. So by redefining our priorities, basing them on their needs, our region is proud to launch the propulsion project, Propulsion, to help small businesses that are in need right now. Some are already indebted, so we're going to try to help them out. And also we want them to enjoy a strong economy so that when they start up again, they'll have a good head start to develop a strong economy and sustainable one too.
Merci beaucoup, Lise. Thank you, Suling. Mayor Watson, what's your perspective on how the city can best support our local business community to keep the economy going forward?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, we implemented the property tax hardship deferral program for residents and businesses that are affected obviously by COVID-19 and the loss of revenue. This gives some help from a cash flow point of view of not having to pay their taxes in June and deferred till October. So far, over 1,100 property owners have benefited from the program. We encourage you to go to the ottawa.ca website to get the information on when you have to apply for, and that allows your payment to be done in October. We're also insisting that landlords pass that option on to their tenants because we're not going to allow a landlord to benefit from that if their tenant at the ground level retail, for instance, is not going to benefit from it. As noted earlier by Councillor Dudas, we've also established our Buy Local campaign. I want to thank Rogers Communications. They've been running the ad on Cable 22 et aussi en français Câble 23. And we launched the Business Reopening Toolkit, which has been extremely well received by the business community and other organizations. And Cindy Van Buskirk, one of your colleagues, Steve, sent me a note that was discussed, that our business toolkit was discussed at the federal level. And a member of this committee referred to the group to the toolkit yesterday and said that it was the most complete and accurate product he had seen since all of this started. So I know it's been sent to the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario members as well, Michael. So we're very proud of our staff working very, very quickly to get that toolkit out. And again, that's available on the ottawa.ca website. We know obviously more needs to be done. Nous savons que nous devons en faire plus pour aider nos petites entreprises ici dans notre ville. And through the Economic Partners Task Force, we're advancing recovery efforts through the exchange of ideas from small businesses, as well as best practices from other sectors. We're also working internally to fast track the review and implementation of initiatives that will help the business community and especially small businesses through this very, very difficult time in our city and our country's history. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to go back to Steve now. You're leading an internal city task force on economic recovery. Can you briefly describe your work to date, how the city's economic recovery package is being built, and how it will be delivered?
Thanks very much, Kena. Yes, the city has, for managing its own operations and leading into this economic recovery support, established 5 different internal task teams that are guiding our response to COVID-19. One of those 5 is the Economic Recovery Task Team, which is supported by the city's Economic Development Services Group. It has representatives from multiple city departments and representation from Ottawa Public Health, who are a key partner in helping us develop content and advice out to the business community. Again, as I said, it's focused on limiting business closures, preserving jobs, and restoring consumer and business confidence in our community. I presented some of our early work, and it's really in the early stages, and we see this program continuing very much for the rest of the year and as long as we need to focus on recovery. I presented at City Council this past Wednesday. Those of you who are watching on YouTube can access the council presentation by clicking on the link in the description. Those watching the town hall on Rogers Television can find the presentation on the Ottawa City Council YouTube webpage. And it's at the May 27th meeting, and my presentation starts at just after the 47-minute mark. And you can see the entire presentation update I gave to council. To date, the team has been focused on engaging the Mayor's Economic Partners Task Force, the people in this presentation and those who weren't able to join us, to address immediate business challenges and minimize economic impacts, and getting their advice on what we could do that would have the greatest impact. Mark talked about some of those issues, as did Suling and Lise, and Michael and I talk quite regularly about what we can do to assist each other as we go forward. Additionally, as the mayor noted, the team has been working to implement several fast-track initiatives. And examples of these initiatives that are in progress, including the patio program, waiving fees for tourist kiosks in the city, opportunities to increase retail vending and expanded new spaces so people stores can actually take some of their products out of the storefronts onto the streets where the space allows to give people better physical distancing when they look at the product lines. And there will be a phase 2 to our Buy Local campaign they'll be rolling out soon. And we've also engaged the most innovative people in the city in our innovation pilot project recovery stream, where we got 47 different proposals from businesses in just 2 weeks on ways the city can use innovation in its own services and supporting the business community to promote recovery. Other initiatives that we have under development include streamlining city's processes, permits, and approvals focused on the highest impacted sectors, entertainment, accommodations, food, services, and retail. And part of that is just the communication we have with partners like Acobia, Chamber of Commerce, and RJA. So when they flag an issue, we have people dedicated to go look into that issue and find a resolution as quickly as possible. We're also identifying and advancing several high economic impact projects in the community that will create fairly significant numbers of jobs in the long term. And this includes the Soundstage Campus and Creative Hub, and opportunities for new development opportunities in the residential affordable housing areas, light manufacturing, and healthcare industries. We're developing new tools, and we'll be rolling these out shortly, such as a rural cycling and tourist campaign, so you can learn more of your city, and that's what Michael talked a little bit about. And we've also are modifying our toolkit and developing a rural business toolkit for rural businesses as well. We're working internally to fast track the review and implementation of initiatives that will help the business community, and our team will stay dedicated and focused on that. As I said to my economic development team when this began, I said, it doesn't matter what we thought this year was. Our job for the remainder of the year is to be there to help the business community on any of their needs are, and to find solutions through the city system as fast as we possibly can. And we're here to do our part to help small businesses through the recovery phase. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. We have some time remaining now for a couple of questions. Councillor Dudas and Councillor El-Shantiri, you've heard our guests talk about economic recovery priorities. What do you think is most important to set the city on a path to recovery?
Well, Keena, I can start and then hand it over to my colleague Eli. As we saw during the initial response to the pandemic, coordination between the multiple levels of government is absolutely instrumental to ensuring a dynamic response, one that is efficient and ultimately cost-effective. As we look to the recovery phase, that circle must widen further. We saw with the Prime Minister consulting with the big banks and industry leaders recently that we need to see that same style of coordination happen on the ground level at the municipal level as well. This is not the time for politicians to say, quote, get out in front and seem like they're being active simply for the sake of it. We need to see a strategic partnering and collaboration between city staff, politicians, NGOs, and the business community to ensure that we're able to head off the foreseeable problems, as well as remain nimble and resourced to address the unforeseen problems that will inevitably arise.
Thank you, Laura. And as I look around, I'm listening to our partners speak, and when we talk about the 35,000 small businesses in our community, and I was so pleased to hear Mark, who's the co-chair with me for Ottawa Council BAA, talking about the need or the importance to make those calls to the local restaurant or to take out, because calling other or through other agency that the businesses lose percentage of their profit. And that's very important, Mark. I'm glad you brought it up, because quite often people think if they call in those agencies, they are helping, and it's great help, but I think they will help more if they pick up the phone and call their local businesses and their local. So some of our businesses, when I drive around or talk around, and especially in the west part of the city, some of them, they're doing very well with the takeout. Now, mind you, the big businesses who strive on people coming in, that have it. So the city creating the tool, that's great help. Having Steve Wallace and his team answering the call, helping out whenever we hear something from the business community and the partner, action in those areas. I believe that's the way we need to continue, because right now, every time we open some kind of business, you hear from other group, what about this? And you mentioned it, Mark. Yes, we can go golfing, but we can't go see a dentist. And so we need the mayor and Steve Wallace to be the ear and the voice with the premier. As Ottawa represents the largest city in Ontario, we need the mayor to continue working with the premier and other partners to make sure we deliver our messaging from Ottawa. And that's what my message will be, the mayor and Steve Wallace to continue working with the partner and present their views with the other level of government.
Thank you very much, councillors. The next question will be to all of our economic partners. What has surprised you the most about how the past 2 months have unfolded, and what has been your biggest learning experience so far? So, en français, qu'est-ce qui vous a le plus surpris dans l'évolution des 2 derniers mois, et quelle fut votre plus grande expérience d'apprentissage jusqu'à maintenant? Please share your thoughts.
So I can go first, Keena, if you like. What surprised me is the variance in different organizational understandings of the economic importance of tourism and the visitor economy. And that's right across the country, not just an Ottawa thing. On one hand, it's very easy to work with organizations like the City of Ottawa, RGA, OBOT, BIAs, OFN, the Ottawa Film Office, who clearly do understand the value of the visitor economy. And during this crisis, the local Ottawa media has repeatedly presented the true facts about the impact of this pandemic on our industry and our economy. That part's been great. Conversely, though, we've dealt with some organizations that are directly and deeply engaged in our industry, but have missed the opportunity to even acknowledge that they have a role to play in the economic recovery of our community and our industry. And that part's been a bit of a disappointing surprise for our organization. But it does fuel us and motivates us to continue to share the information about this critical economic sector. Prior to COVID-19, the visitor economy supported those 43,000 jobs for our friends, family, and neighbors, and pumped an average of $3.8 million into Ottawa's economy every single day. And so we all benefit from that kind of economic activity, and we really do need it back.
I'm happy to jump on too. It's a bit of a sad thing, but what sort of surprised me is how quickly people are to accept this work from home as the new normal. Many large corporations saying they don't need physical locations anymore. I find it sad, and the long-term impact on the vibrancy of our cities can be quite depressing. So, but I don't want to end on a sad note. I do want to say I know the executive directors of the BIAs are doing amazing work helping out their members and trying to keep our neighborhoods going. And I also want to say that the spirit of cooperation between the different organizations and my partners here, on this call has been amazing, and it's really helped us get through some really challenging times.
Ça me fait plaisir d'embarquer moi aussi, tel que Michael et Mark ont suggéré, la collaboration, elle est
to say that I agree with the others. Cooperation has been exceptional. I think it's also important to tell you that many people needed to support and they need to go back to work. Of course, work is very, very important. We shouldn't forget those who need to go to work at the office. But what's even more important is for people to realize that organizations are represented today are just as important. Our differences are no longer in existence. We're working together, and it's by working together that we'll come out of this stronger. And we listen to each other's ideas, and that'll allow us to innovate even more, I think.
Thank you. I think that what has happened these last weeks has revealed a lot of fault lines in our systems, in our government, and in our businesses that have provided us an opportunity to re-examine how we are operating and what we need to do so that we can withstand any maybe not another pandemic, but things that we are not expecting. We ran a Canadian Chamber survey across Canada, and 60% of businesses said that they could not survive with their current cash flow more than 60 days from the beginning of this pandemic. And so I think as economic stakeholders, we need to think about these businesses and how they can become more secure. The other thing is many of us able to move quickly into a digital environment, but many were not. There was a lot of ramping up for a lot of businesses to be able to do that. And so I think what this has provided is a lot of opportunity for us to re-examine how we do business, how we can put some more security into our businesses, our government, and our systems. And what has not surprised me, but what has confirmed for me, is the tremendous amount of opportunity when we collaborate at the deepest level possible. What we could really do for Ottawa, and I know I've had this conversation with many of you, and Laura Dudas and I like to talk about this a lot. what could Ottawa really do if we maintained or even accelerated the level of collaboration that we've been forced into over these last weeks as we move forward into recovery and maybe even, going even further or above and beyond what we imagine possible. And so I would see that as not something that is surprising, but that we believed as a core value could be Ottawa's competitive advantage in a global economy, is to maintain that level of collaboration to support one another in our business community and see our community as a whole thrive more than we even expected.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your insight. It's now time to wrap up, so I will let Mayor Watson provide his closing remarks.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Keena, and thank you for keeping us on time. We committed to an hour and we've just got 4 minutes to go, so I really appreciate that. And I've been impressed by the very collaborative approach that the business community has taken with this very challenging issue that has been put before not just us, but people from around the world. So my sincere thanks to those panelists who were on the Economic Task Force and my colleagues Laura Dudas and Eli El-Shantiri, as well as the other members of the task force who I know are listening in. We very much appreciate your expertise. You have your ears to the ground, as we say, and very much appreciate the feedback that we've been giving. I also want to thank Steve and Cindy Van Buskirk and Metsi Gravel from my office for the great work in keeping us in the loop and informed during these changing and challenging times. Merci à vous tous de votre dévouement.
Thank you all for your devotion and for the time you spent helping others.
Task force. Businesses, as we all know, the small business community in particular, is the backbone of our economy here in the city of Ottawa. Even though the federal government is the largest employer, you look at the hundreds and hundreds of small tech companies, the thousands of restaurants and retail operations in different neighborhoods throughout the city of Ottawa. And we are doing whatever we can to ensure the survival of some of these businesses when they're given the green light to open up. And as I think Eli pointed out, there have been some great innovations, both from the larger business community, converting one operation to creating masks, for instance, for personal protective equipment. Others that have been offering curbside delivery options for pickup and so on. We have the farmers market at Lansdowne that has the click and pick option on Sunday starting for the first time that will help dozens of farmers from the city of Ottawa who are also small business people. Alors, merci beaucoup pour votre participation aujourd'hui. The city is here to work with you. We are living here at City Hall and we're in a little bit of a cocoon. We're not facing the severity of loss of 100% of our income. So we want to do whatever we can to roll out the red carpet, as I've always said, instead of the red tape. And that I hope you've seen as a result of today's broadcast, the feeling that all of us at the City of Ottawa feel that we have an obligation to help you as much as possible because you're the businesses that help to sustain all of the social services that we provide for our less vulnerable population. So thank you again. Thank you to Rogers Cable, who also have been broadcasting this, and the couple hundred people that were watching over the course of the last hour. We're in this together and we'll get through it. I sincerely thank you all and wish everyone a very good weekend here in the most beautiful city in the blessed country called Canada. Merci.
Thank you, Mayor Watson, and thank you to all of our panelists today and to everyone for tuning in. As Mayor Watson said, we hope you found the session useful. Merci à tous les panélistes et à tous les participants d'avoir été des nôtres. Nous espérons que vous avez trouvé cette séance
people watching us today. We hope you found it useful. Enjoy the rest of your day. Alors, bonne fin.
And thank you.